Good morning. It is the 16th of July. So it's been a good few months since I filmed my last video. It is currently 11:41 a.m. and I'm going to show you all the ceramics I made. So last semester I enrolled in a ceramics unit at university and I absolutely loved it. I haven't done ceramic work since year 10 in high school. So I've got about 28 pieces. I thought I'd go through all of them from the start of the semester to the end of the semester and kind of talk about, I don't know, what I found really enjoyable, what was really challenging, and what I'm going to do with them. So the first thing we did was recycle clay. So both a cost and a sustainability aspect of making clay, I guess they do at uni. So I'll insert some little videos of recycling clay, so I use that for the majority of the works, and then when I hit the end of the semester we had paper clay we used. Then we started with tiles. So they had these stamp things stamp tools, both square and circular. So part of the unit was to make, I think, 6 squares. So that's the first one I made. It did have little balls of clay around the border, but that didn't turn out. So we each had the same size, and then we chose what colour glaze we did. So an underglaze, and then we rubbed it back. I did them all in teal, and I used, this was a macrame fabric, which I really liked, and then others were just like shells and straws, and that one I poked lots of holes in. These I'll probably gift or keep for like a future house to put around a doorway or something. These ones are my favourite. They were used all with lace and doilies, and I just glazed them with white. Some of the edges are a little bit wonky because when I pressed the fabric it kind of distorted the shape of the clay after using the stamp. So these ones I'll definitely keep. This one reminds me of cheese, which I really like. And then later in the semester I came back to tiles and kind of made these experimental ones. So it didn't really turn out how I wanted, but I embroidered into it by making the holes kind of transparent. And then put some beads, which I used glue. And then this one I tried to make a heart, but some of the clay fell off. So they were the tiles, and then we made pinch pots. Some of them were little coils bottoms, and then you put a flat bit of clay on the other side. This is an obvara piece. This is another pinch pot I made. It is just a flat surface one, and then this is another one as well. So these three I chose to do the obvara glaze using a flour and water mixture. Oh, sorry, and there's also this one, which is a bit of a bigger one. The really beautiful thing about these is everyone's turned out different. So depending on the heat and the amount of time it was spent in the mixture, the markings were different. So some were spots, some were like, this is a gorgeous little like zigzag, reminds me of stretch marks kind of marking. Another pinch pot I made was this little blue one, which was quite beautiful, and then you have to leave the bottom with no glaze. So just a little flower pattern. I think they were all, and then this was one of my first raku pieces. We had to leave the joining not smooth, to kind of just get into the practice of making an imperfect pot and not think about making it look smooth and finished and polished. And in the inside, so this was the green glaze, some of it turns red, which is quite beautiful. Then we made cylinder pots. This was an experimental one. One of the technicians lent me a book on mid-century modern kind of inspired pieces. So I pressed my finger in and kind of made these indents in the clay. And that's the lid, just with a little knobby bit. And then I just did a kind of rusty red glaze. Another cylinder pot with this little purple one. I did a shiny glaze on the inside and on the top of the lid and left the rest matte, so without the clear top coat. So that's pretty cute. This one is not my favourite. It's just yellow with no top glaze, and then that's a little lid. This one, orange and purple, just to try. So an orange body and a purple lid. This one is kind of cute. It's just different colours, little bits of clay. And then the lid, I did like a little twisting handle, and that's a little one, which is quite cute. Another one was for my friend. We actually put 2 bits of clay for eyes and nose, and we had 2 little legs, but they all came off while I was working on it and doing the glaze. So you can actually see the 2 indents for the eyes, and then yeah, just a little raku piece. This one, I actually quite like the shape of little vessel. This one was a big one. I did 3 cylinder pots and then I joined them with coils, and then this was not glazed because of the height of it. When it was fired, it couldn't be upright, it had to be on its side. So that's all the raku, which is quite beautiful. We made, again, coil pots as well. So I made these big ones. So I made 2 this size. This one I chose to do an obvara firing. And then this one I did a raku firing, which I actually love. Then I did another coil pot a bit differently, so with a white glaze. And this one is my favourite. It is a cylinder pot with coils and then a lid type thing. I'm actually entering this one into an art competition, an emerging artist one in Perth. So I will drop that off this afternoon, which is why I'm filming this video today, so I can make sure I include this. Then we made plates. So I made 3. This was the last one I did. It was a black glaze, but it actually is quite different. It is purple and kind of blue in certain lights. And I did these shapes to put my beads in. So I wanted a piece that was kind of for my beads. This one I don't love. So I tried the lettuce kind of folding technique, but the glaze, I did like a purple and an orange, and I don't love it. So I will gift this one because it is not my favourite. And then we made boxes. The boxes took me the longest out of everything. You have to make sure they're all right angles because it starts to deform as the clay dries and then it fires. So we'd work on them, keep them in a humidifier box, and then continue working on them. So the first one I made was this one. And part of the box, part of the assignment, we had to do a stencil. So you could just cut out circles or kind of strips. I wanted to do a checker pattern and I chose to do a green glaze. So that's it. And then for the lid I just did like some little squiggles with no colour, and then the box just has non-symmetrical grid pattern, so it kind of folds over the edge as well, which I thought was quite nice. The other box I made is my favourite. I didn't want to do another stencil, so I made a little house, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I made a little door and 2 little windows with some little flowers, and then the lid has a red brick chimney and some smoke. And for the smoke, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was originally twisting thread around each other, and I didn't know if I wanted it just coming upwards or coming around, and I really like the finish. It makes me really happy. Then one of the other final parts of the assignment were teapots. The first one I made was this one, which is a little bit different. I did lips on the end and a double-sided nose lid, and the colour was quite fleshy because I wanted it to be quite abstract. So yeah, it's a different one. And then I made this textured one, and the lid does not fit, so I kind of just applied lots of bits of clay, and I'm really happy with it. It's quite large, but it's really different, so yes. And then my final teapot was this. I engraved bugs all around it. So there's a caterpillar, and then on the lid I engraved a little bug, so it was like it was crawling into the teapot. And then I did a fly on the handle, and then I did a teal glaze, so similar to the tiles, but this time I didn't rub it off and I didn't do an underglaze, I just did the stain. So the colour is a lot richer. It is flat, it doesn't look like it's, when you kind of rub off some of the glaze, it looks a bit tie-dye, which I don't really love the look of, but that was just part of the unit, was learning how to use the glazes. So this was just the stain, and then I used a really fine metal tool to engrave the bugs on. The final thing I made is actually up there, but it is at least 10 kilos. We had to make a bust, and at first I wanted to do a fairy with big pointy ears, and then as I was talking to my partner, he goes, why don't you make a gnome? Because he really likes gnomes, and we've got a few around the apartment. So I looked up a gnome reference photo and a grumpy old man reference photo, and I wanted him to have a lot of personality. The first one I actually made fell onto my lecturer. I'd left for an appointment and was going to come back, and the weight of it, because I wanted him looking downwards like really grumpily, and the weight of it was not distributed evenly, so it fell and it was destroyed. The whole face was pressed in. So my lecturer kindly made me another head and kind of basic structure, but it was very large, so I kind of just worked with it as I went on, and I chose to do a kind of realistic paint job. So we could have just done all white, or we could have left it just the clay. I made his skin tone quite realistic with a bit of green. In the paint, I knew I wanted a big red pointy hat, so I did that, and then I spent a lot of time working on different skin tones to make it a bit more realistic, especially like the I did some blush on his nose and his cheeks, and his hair, I wanted it originally just white, but it looked unfinished, so I added some grey and some brown, so it was like an aging man. And that is all my ceramics. I thoroughly loved the unit. I spent 2 to 3 days a week for the whole, I think it was about 13 weeks. And then for presentation, that was also worth some marks. So I spent a lot of time. I actually had too much work to put in the space they provided, and I wanted the bust a little bit higher on a plinth or something similar, so it didn't just blend in and be covered by the other works. So overall, loved it. I would love to incorporate it in my practice. Obviously the cost is one thing, also acquiring a kiln. I know there are places in Perth where you can send your work, but until I finish uni, I will stick to my beadwork, and then yeah, see how I go.